Lumbricus species, or what we commonly refer to as earthworms, are what we call ecosystem engineers. And that's because they physically change the soil in ways that affect the entire ecosystem. When they burrow, they tend to help loosen the ground and improve water penetration, which overall helps to support plant growth. Because of this, earthworms are also good indicators of soil quality. Because if something is wrong, we often see behavioral or physical stress in worms, such as lack of movement or swelling or inflammation. There are many different environmental factors that affect how worms behave, such as soil pH or soil texture. However, soil moisture is one of the most important ones. This is because earthworm bodies are around 75 to 80% water, and they often thrive in environments with around soil moisture contents of 30%. Our experiment is looking specifically at how moisture influences the movement of earthworms. As a result, our hypothesis is that as soil moisture increases, a greater number of earthworms will migrate to the soil surface. This is because the higher moisture levels will reduce the amount of oxygen available in the soil, causing the worms to not be able to breathe. We predict that the higher soil moisture levels will lead to a larger number of earthworms being able to get to the surface much more quickly compared to the drier soil conditions. This experiment is important as it helps us better understand soil ecology by showing how moisture affects worm behavior and overall soil health. It also gives us insight into how earthworm populations might respond to environmental changes. For our experiment, we prepared 4 moisture treatments. Our first one, which is our dry group, contained 0% added water and served as our control group. Following that, we had treatment groups containing 35% added water, 49% added water, and finally 65% added water. Other variables that were kept constant included the worm species, the soil type, also including the initial volume of soil that we added in each container, the container size, the temperature of the initial water, as well as the pH, and then the number of worms per trial. For each trial, a single worm was placed at the bottom of a beaker and covered in soil. A timer was then started, and then we recorded how long it took to surface. If a worm did not surface within 15 minutes, it was removed for safety, and the time was recorded as 900 seconds. Each moisture level was then tested 3 times, and then giving a sample of 3 worms per treatment. We also made qualitative observations, including the swelling, reduced movement, or other signs of distress of the earthworm. The results showed that on average, the earthworms more frequently reach the surface of the soil in wetter conditions versus drier conditions. In fact, in both the dry and 35% soil treatments, none of the earthworms surfaced within the 15-minute period, whereas all of the worms in the 49% and the 65% treatment groups successfully reached the surface. On average, the worms in the 49% saturation group surfaced the fastest, while those in the 65% group took longer despite the higher moisture content. This trend is demonstrated in Figure 5, which displays the average surfacing time across the four moisture levels. The 2 driest treatments appear at 15 minutes, representing worms that never surfaced, while the 2 wetter treatments show visibly shorter times, around a few seconds to minutes. Table 1 further supports these findings by summarizing the qualitative observations that we observed during the experiment. It shows that worms in the drier soils relatively remained at the bottom with no physical changes, whereas worms in the 49% and 65% treatments surfaced, and those in the 65% group frequently showed swelling after exposure. Overall, our hypothesis was supported. The results showed, on average, that the earthworms were much more likely to reach the surface under higher moisture conditions. However, we observed an unexpected result. The worms in the 65% saturation group surfaced more slowly than those in the 49% group. It's highly plausible that the higher water content caused the soil to become more compact and dense. Research shows that the denser soils tend to increase mechanical resistance, which slows burrowing and hinder earthworm movements. We also noticed swelling and inflammation on the earthworms that were exposed to the 65% treatment group. This could indicate that the heavier waterlogged soil may have caused additional physical strain that further reduced the worm's ability to move. A suggestion to improve this study would be to increase the number of worms in future trials, as it would strengthen reliability and also lessen the impact of individual variation on the results. Future experiments could involve testing whether other earthworm species show similar moisture responses. Overall, understanding soil moisture helps us to support earthworm populations which helps us maintain healthy, productive, and agricultural soils.